Today I'm going to help you set up PowerPoint so you can be way more productive and remove a bunch of frustrations. So we're going to look at useful keyboard shortcuts to make things way faster, how to set up the quick access toolbar so you have easy access to the most important PowerPoint commands, changing the default styles and fonts for shapes so that every time you drop in a new shape, you don't have to restyle it, and finally, changing some settings in PowerPoint such as increasing the number of undos and changing autocorrect so that you can type way faster, and plenty more. So if that's useful, let's jump into it. Let's start with keyboard shortcuts. Now I'm not going to go through every single keyboard shortcut in PowerPoint, but I will go through the ones that are useful and I use every day. So I've put an image on this slide and I want to make a duplicate of the image. So the first thing I do is I hold Control and I click and drag away from the image. And you can see that's duplicated the image. And I want to do that again, so I'll hold Control, click and drag, and now I have 3 images. I'm thinking to myself now, these images are actually a little big. I want to make them smaller. So I can highlight and select the images, hold Shift and press down, and that will resize the images. Now here you've noticed that the relativity or relationship between the images has changed, and now it looks like there's a bigger gap between them, and I don't really want that. So I'm going to return them to their previous size. And now, first I'm going to group the images by pressing Ctrl G, and I'll do the same thing. So hold Shift, press down, and then press across. And you can see that the images have all resized and kept the relationship between them. So they look the same, just a bit smaller. So those are the key keyboard shortcuts that I use for formatting. So let's move on to text. So first I'm going to highlight the text by hitting Control and pressing A. And there's a few things that I do here regularly. One is I might want to resize the text, and the other is I might want to realign the text. Let's start with realignment. So hold Control and press L to align to the left. Press E to align to the center, and press R to align to the right. Very, very simple. So again, Control E for the center. Now I might want to make the text bigger. So to do that, I hold Control Shift and the left angled bracket to make it smaller, and the right angled bracket to make it bigger. So those are the keyboard shortcuts that I use most regularly in PowerPoint. People sometimes ask me, do you use keyboard shortcuts for alignment and distribution of objects? The answer is no, I don't use keyboard shortcuts, and frankly, I just find them a little too hard to remember. So instead of using keyboard shortcuts, I use something known as the Quick Access Toolbar. So the Quick Access Toolbar is the bunch of buttons on the top left of PowerPoint. And instead of having these commands up here, I can change them so I can have my alignment commands up there. So to edit the Quick Access Toolbar, I click on File, Options, and then under Quick Access Toolbar, you can see all of the buttons that are currently active. Now, I know the keyboard shortcut for save, undo, redo, and start from the beginning. So let's remove all of those by clicking Remove. And instead of popular commands, I'm going to click on All Commands, and you'll see a bunch of new commands pop up. So the next step is, let's find the things that are most important to us. Okay, so for me, the most useful commands to have in the Quick Access Toolbar are Align Center, Align Middle, Distribute Horizontally, and Distribute Vertically. So to add them to the toolbar, just click OK, and you'll see that there are buttons here, although they're grayed out at the moment. So let's highlight some shapes, and you'll see that the buttons are now active. But first, maybe let's move them out of alignment. We might want to align objects middle. That seems to work. And let's distribute horizontally as well. It seems to work fine. So these are the most common ones that I use, but you can add almost any PowerPoint command into the Quick Access Toolbar to make things way easier for you when you're in the middle of making a slide. Now let's look at changing the default color and styling of shapes. So if I was to drop in a shape by default in PowerPoint, you can see that the fill and the outline are blue, the text is white. It's a little bit strange, and you'd have to basically change the style for this every time you drop in a new shape. It's pretty time consuming and a little bit annoying. So let's change the defaults. So firstly, we need to just set the shape to the style and font that we want. So I'm just going to change everything here, including the font. And now you can see it's quite a generic shape. So to set this as default, you simply right click and you click on the button that says set as default shape. Now, every time you drop a shape in, even if it's a different shape, it's going to have the same style. So it saves you a bunch of time restyling these new shapes. Finally, let's look at some PowerPoint settings. Now, by default, PowerPoint only allows us to undo 20 times, but it's not set in stone. So let's change that by going to File, Options, and under Advanced, you'll see maximum number of undos. Now we can change the 20 to any number between 3 and 150. So let's go to 150. So next time you make a terrible mistake in PowerPoint, you can undo your way out of it. Now we'll look at an interesting autocorrect option that we can use to type much faster. So let's go to File, Options, and under Proofing, there's a button that says Autocorrect Options. Click on that. And now we can tell PowerPoint to automatically replace a word with another word. So one example might be, let's replace PPT with the word PowerPoint. Click Add, OK, OK, and let's test this out. This PPT is good. And you can see it automatically changes the word for you. So for long, complex words that have multiple capitalizations in them, this can be a really useful way to type them very quickly. So there's a bunch of tips and tricks in PowerPoint to improve your productivity and remove some frustrations. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the comment box down below. Hope that was helpful.